Hey there movie lovers, welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're diving into the underwater world of the 1965 James Bond classic, Thunderball. With Sean Connery back as 007, this action-packed spy thriller literally took Bond to new depths with some stunning underwater sequences. But how much do you really know about what went on behind the scenes? So grab your scuba gear and let's dive into 20 things you never knew about Thunderball. In 1959, Bond creator Ian Fleming teamed up with producer Kevin McClory and writer Jack Whittingham to develop a screenplay for a Bond film. However, disillusioned with the film industry, Fleming returned to Jamaica to write his next novel, which incorporated elements from their collaboration. McClory later sued, leading to an out-of-court settlement that granted him the film rights to Thunderball. McClory attempted to compete with Eon Productions by developing his own Bond film. And because McClory was unable to cast Connery due to his Eon contract, he considered Lawrence Harvey for the role. In response, producers Albert R. Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman fast-tracked On Her Majesty's Secret Service to stay ahead. But after initially marketing Thunderball as a rival project during Goldfinger's production, McClory eventually agreed to co-produce it with Eon in September 1964, so On Her Majesty's Secret Service went on the back burner. McClory also wanted to direct the film but was overruled in favour of a neutral director. Broccoli and Saltzman initially wanted Guy Hamilton to direct, as he was fresh from the success of the third Bond film Goldfinger. However, he felt he lacked the energy for another Bond outing at that time. They then turned to Terence Young, who had previously directed Dr. No and From Russia with Love. This would be his final Bond film, but Hamilton later returned to the franchise, directing Connery once more in Diamonds Are Forever and helming Roger Moore's first two Bond outings, Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun. For the role of Domino Duval, the biggest names considered were Julie Christie, Raquel Welch and Faye Dunaway, but the role ultimately went to Claudine Auger. When Auger was cast as Domino, the novel's Italian leading lady, Dominetta Vitali, was changed to Dominique Duval to suit her French accent. However, it was later decided that Auger's voice was unsuitable for Domino, so she was dubbed in post-production by Nikki van der Zyl, who had also dubbed voices in the previous three Bond films. Co-star Luciana Paluzzi also auditioned for the part, but she was cast as the villainous Fiona Fulp instead. Technically known as the Small Rocket Lift Device, the jetpack or rocket belt was developed by Bell Textron in the 1950s to help troops jump over battlefield obstacles. However, its thrust only lasted for 21 seconds. 2 qualified pilots were flown to France to operate it for Bond's takeoff. Bill Suter, who piloted the jetpack on camera, was first asked if he would mind flying without a helmet to make Bond look cooler. For safety reasons, Suter refused, which is why Connery wears a helmet in the final film. The shark-filled pool scenes were as perilous off-screen as they appeared on-screen. When Emilio Largo throws a victim into the pool to be devoured, stuntman Bill Cummings demanded £250 in hazard pay, understandably as he was leaping onto a live shark. He survived, but the challenges didn't end there. Sean Connery, wary of swimming unprotected with sharks, relied on a plexiglass partition designed by Ken Adam, though he ran out of material, so unbeknownst to Connery, the barrier had a 4-foot gap, which a shark exploited, forcing him to make a frantic escape. Connery's genuine fear heightened the scene's authenticity. For a shot of a shark lunging at Bond as he exits the pool, the crew used a supposedly dead shark pulled by wires. Special effects coordinator John Steers entered the pool to control it, surrounded by live sharks. However, the dead shark suddenly revived, triggering a feeding frenzy. As Steers shouted, "Get me out of here!" director Terence Young famously yelled, "Turn the cameras!" to capture the chaos. Steers survived and later won an Oscar for the visual effects. If you're enjoying the video, a subscribe to the channel would be more explosive than a stolen nuke in the hands of Spectre. For the scene in which Largo's yacht, the Disco Volante, crashes onto rocks and explodes, John Steers enlisted the help of a US Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. He supplied the production with experimental rocket fuel to enhance the explosion, and Steers, unaware of just how powerful the substance really was, loaded the yacht with it. The resulting explosion was so massive that it sent the boat soaring into the air, nearly causing it to land on the crew. When the crew eventually returned to Nassau after filming the scene, they discovered that the force of the explosion had shattered windows all along Bay Street. Remarkably, they were 30 miles away from Nassau when the blast occurred. The journey to the theme song was anything but straightforward. Composers John Barry and Leslie Bricusse initially struggled to incorporate the film's title into a song, finding Thunderball, which is a military term for an atomic mushroom cloud, too unwieldy. Instead, they wrote Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which was inspired by an Italian journalist's description of James Bond. Shirley Bassey recorded the track, but when it proved too short for the title sequence, Dionne Warwick was brought in to re-record an extended version. However, producer Cubby Broccoli insisted the song include the film's title, leading to its replacement. Barry and lyricist Don Black then crafted Thunderball, performed by Tom Jones, which became the film's official theme. Interestingly, Eon Productions even rejected a submission from Johnny Cash, opting instead for Barry and Black's collaboration with Jones. Production designer Sir Ken Adam designed the underwater tow sleds used by Spectre. However, he wasn't certain whether they could even be built to function. Fortunately, they discovered an expert on mini-submarines, Jordan Klein in Florida, who was able to construct the vehicles as working underwater equipment. When producer Kevin McClory became very wealthy from his share of the profits, he purchased a villa in the Bahamas and placed the main Spectre mini-submarine in his garden, where it remained for many years. Sadly, the craft, which would have been a prized piece in any Bond fan's collection, deteriorated over time due to neglect. When McClory sold the property and it was bulldozed in the 90s to make way for a holiday resort, the iconic prop was destroyed along with it. Highlighting the tight production schedule of the first 4 Bond films, the cast and crew were busy filming in northern France while Goldfinger was enjoying its French premiere in Paris. To promote the film, Sean Connery drove the Aston Martin DB5 to the premiere. However, he soon regretted this decision as an over-enthusiastic fan leapt into the passenger seat beside him. Security teams swiftly removed her from the Aston Martin, and the premiere proceeded without further disruption. To assist 007 in tracking down the 2 stolen NATO atomic bombs, Q equips him with a wristwatch that also functions as a Geiger counter. The timepiece in question was a Breitling Top Time Reference 2002 made in 1962. The watch disappeared during filming and was not seen again until 2013, when it resurfaced at a car boot sale for just £25. After being authenticated by Breitling and several experts, the timepiece was sold at Christie's for over £100,000. There are plenty of continuity errors in this film. One such example is that when Q gives Bond all of the fancy gadgets he can use, he is told that the watch is a Geiger counter and the camera would take 8 pictures quickly underwater. But later on, 007 tells Domino that the camera is a Geiger counter and will work when she presses the button. You can hear the clicking of the device when she drops it on the boat. For the first time, Sean Connery personally appeared in the iconic opening gun barrel sequence. While this signature moment had become a staple of the franchise, Connery hadn't actually performed it in the first 3 films. Instead, his stunt double Bob Simmons had stepped in. For the scene where Fiona Volpe fires rockets from her motorcycle to destroy the Count's car, stuntman Bob Simmons was responsible for driving the vehicle and leaping out after the explosion. Director Terence Young was extremely concerned for Simmons' safety during filming, as he didn't see the stuntman jump clear of the burning car before its explosion. Once the scene was captured, Young and his crew rushed over, fearing the worst, only to have Simmons pop up behind them, he had jumped clear of the Ford at the very last possible moment. The filmmakers were so impressed with Rick Van Nutter, who portrayed CIA agent Felix Leiter, that they contracted him to reprise his role in several subsequent Bond films. However, they struggled to find ways to incorporate the character into the next films, You Only Live Twice and On Her Majesty's Secret Service. By the time Leiter reappeared in Diamonds Are Forever in 1971, Van Nutter's contract had expired, and he was concentrating on his shipping business. As a result, Norman Burton was cast in the role, albeit to a less favourable reception. Early on in the film, Q equips Bond with a tiny breathing apparatus that enables him to survive underwater for several minutes. The scene was so convincing that a member of the Royal Engineers phoned Chief Draftsman Peter Lamont to ask how long the device actually worked. Lamont simply replied, "As long as you can hold your breath." When the engineer pointed out that Bond was underwater for several minutes on screen, Lamont explained that it was the skill of the editor. The costume designers took great care to reflect Domino's name in her wardrobe, dressing her exclusively in black and white outfits throughout the film. Largo's yacht, the Disco Valente, was bought by Ken Adam for about $10,000 and was refitted in Miami. Naval advisors told him that the various functions of the boat as outlined in the script were impossible, particularly the idea of converting it from a yacht into a hydrofoil. Nevertheless, Adam designed a catamaran section to be attached to the stern by just 2-inch-long slip bolts. This was so the 50-foot Edition could move independently, and as we see in the film, it worked like a charm. Martin Beswick was cast as 007's assistant, Paula Kaplan. Despite being born in Jamaica, Beswick's skin had become pale from living in London and focusing on her stage career. As a result, she had to spend several weeks sunbathing before filming began in order to develop a healthy tan and appear more like a native Bahamian. The end credits conclude rather abruptly. This was because James Bond would return in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This was in keeping with Ian Fleming's original Blofeld trilogy, which spanned from the 1961 novel Thunderball to On Her Majesty's Secret Service in 1963 and concluded with the 1964 book You Only Live Twice. However, when it became clear that the snow levels in Switzerland wouldn't be suitable for adapting the 1963 novel, the decision was made to jump ahead to You Only Live Twice for the next installment. Rather than altering the end titles before its release, supervising editor Peter R. Hunt suggested simply trimming the announcement of the next Bond film from the credits. The 007 series had a gradual rise to success, with the first 2 films making only a modest international impact and operating on relatively small budgets. However, following the massive box office triumph of Goldfinger, the budget for Bond's 4th adventure skyrocketed to around $9 million, far more than the first 3 films combined. The film far exceeded all expectations at the box office, earning over $140 million. When adjusted for inflation, it's the second most financially successful Bond film after Skyfall. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about Thunderball. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.